In the quiet town of Ashwood, Illinois, a whirlwind romance blossomed between Marisela Rios and Damien Hale. Their love story seemed like a fairy tale, their future shimmering with promises of forever. But beneath the surface of their love story lurked a darkness, a twisted web of manipulation woven by Marisela. One fateful night, Marisela confided in Damien, her voice laced with fear. She spoke of a dangerous secret, a Mexican and Bulgarian crime syndicate that had targeted him. Her words sent shivers down Damien's spine, a cold dread settling in his gut. Marisela spun a horrifying tale, painting a picture of a mole within their circle, a viper waiting to strike. She pointed the finger at Gabriella Montez, Damien's mistress, branding her as the traitor. Blinded by a concoction of love and paranoia, Damien believed her every word. Consumed by a warped sense of duty and a desire to protect Marisela, Damien embarked on a mission fueled by deception. The consequences were horrific. In a brutal act, he took the lives of Gabriella, her husband, and their 2 innocent children, their blood staining his hands. The town of Ashwood was left reeling, shrouded in a veil of shock and disbelief. The news spread like wildfire, whispers of a love triangle turning into a nightmare. But the story took a stranger turn when the bodies of Marisela and Damien were found in a car crash, their fates seemingly intertwined even in death. The motive remained shrouded in mystery. Damien's attorney pleaded ignorance, claiming no knowledge of the woman who had ensnared his client. The police pursued every lead, desperately seeking answers in the wreckage of shattered lives. As days turned into weeks, a chilling truth began to emerge. Investigators suspected Marisela had orchestrated the entire charade, manipulating Damien into eliminating her rival and her family. The question that lingered was why? Was it a twisted game of love and obsession, or something far more sinister? The answer may forever lie buried with Marisela and Damien, their secrets taking them to a cold grave. The case of Ashwood serves as a stark reminder of the destructive power of deception, a cautionary tale of how love can curdle into a lethal poison, and how the human mind can be twisted and manipulated to the point of utter destruction. The investigation into the Montez murders turned into a media frenzy, each twist dissected by armchair detectives and television pundits alike. But amidst the noise, one voice stood out. Detective Elena Monroe, a seasoned investigator who had seen her share of bizarre cases but found herself haunted by this one. Elena had an instinct for puzzles, and something about Marisela's death in the car crash felt off. The scene was too convenient, the wreckage too tidy. What gnawed at her most was the autopsy report. Marisela's injuries weren't consistent with the crash. She had a fractured skull that predated the accident by at least 24 hours. Following this lead, Elena dug into Marisela's life. She discovered that Marisela wasn't who she claimed to be. Her real name was Ana Ramos, and she had a trail of aliases, each tied to financial scams and dubious relationships. Bank records revealed a series of transactions linked to offshore accounts, one of which received a massive deposit just days before the murders. Elena's investigation uncovered that Gabriella Montez had been a significant obstacle in Marisela's schemes. Gabriella's family owned a lucrative import-export business, and Gabriella had recently exposed a fraud scheme involving Marisela's fake company. It became clear that Marisela's relationship with Damien wasn't about love, but leverage. He was a tool to eliminate her greatest threat. As Elena connected the dots, she faced pushback from her superiors, who wanted the case closed and the town's sense of safety restored. But she refused to back down, determined to uncover the full truth. With help from a forensic accountant, she traced the offshore funds to a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. The company was tied to a mysterious figure known only as LR, a suspected money launderer for international criminal networks. One night, while reviewing surveillance footage from a local gas station near the crash site, Elena spotted a figure matching Damien's description, arguing with a woman hours before the accident. But the woman wasn't Marisela. With enhanced footage, the woman was identified as Leila Cruz, a former associate of Marisela's who had disappeared months earlier. This revelation raised a chilling possibility. Was Marisela's death staged to silence her? Elena tracked down Leila, now living under a new identity in Michigan. Terrified but willing to talk, Leila revealed that Marisela had double-crossed powerful people, including the crime syndicates she once worked for. Marisela's death wasn't an accident. It was a hit disguised as a crash, orchestrated to look like Damien had taken her life in a murder-suicide. In reality, the syndicates had turned on Marisela, fearing she would expose their operations. Leila's testimony, combined with forensic evidence, pointed to a larger conspiracy. Elena pieced together that Damien's paranoia wasn't entirely unfounded. The crime syndicates had exploited Marisela's manipulations, feeding Damien false information to further their own agenda. Damien, a man already teetering on the edge, became their pawn in a deadly game. The final breakthrough came when Elena discovered a hidden journal in Damien's garage, tucked away in a toolbox. In it, Damien had detailed his descent into paranoia, the whispers of betrayal planted in his mind, and his growing suspicion that he was being used. The last entry, written hours before the murders, was a plea for clarity. Who can I trust? Is Marisela my savior or my destroyer? The case officially closed with a public statement citing Marisela's manipulation and the syndicate's involvement. But for Elena, the case was far from over. She knew the syndicates were still out there, pulling strings in the shadows. The story of Ashwood wasn't just a tale of love turned deadly. It was a chilling reminder of how easily people could become pawns in a much larger, more dangerous game. Months later, Elena received an anonymous package. Inside was a single photograph of Marisela sitting at a cafe in Buenos Aires, alive and well. Scrawled on the back were the words, "Not all ghosts stay buried." The photograph reignited Elena's determination. If Marisela was alive, everything about the case needed to be revisited. She immediately contacted Interpol, sharing the photograph and requesting surveillance on the cafe. But tracking someone like Marisela required more than just official channels. Elena enlisted the help of a trusted private investigator, Marcus Voss, a former intelligence operative with expertise in tracing people who didn't want to be found. Marcus began by studying the photograph. The cafe's logo on the napkin hinted at a small, upscale district in Buenos Aires, frequented by the wealthy and influential. Marcus's contacts in South America provided him with additional intelligence. A woman matching Marisela's description had been seen entering a high-security private compound weeks earlier. Meanwhile, Elena faced mounting pressure from her department to leave the case alone. Her superiors warned her that pursuing Marisela could jeopardize their fragile relationship with international agencies. But Elena refused to let go, driven by a need for justice and closure for the Montez family. As Marcus gathered more information, the pieces began to fall into place. Marisela, or Ana Ramos, appeared to be rebuilding her network, this time leveraging connections in the art world to launder money. Marcus uncovered evidence of art auctions involving forged masterpieces, with proceeds funneled into accounts tied to the same shell companies from the original investigation. The final piece of the puzzle came when Marcus obtained security footage from a private auction. Marisela was there, mingling with elite guests, her charm on full display. Elena knew this was her chance. She coordinated with local authorities in Buenos Aires to plan a covert operation to capture Marisela without alerting her network. On the night of the sting, the tension was palpable. Elena watched from a surveillance van as agents moved in, but as they closed in, Marisela seemed to sense the danger. She slipped out through a back exit, disappearing into the labyrinthine streets of Buenos Aires. The operation was a near miss, but it confirmed one thing: Marisela was alive, and she was still dangerous. Elena returned to Ashwood with renewed resolve. Marisela's survival wasn't just an escape, it was a challenge. The hunt for Marisela Rios, or Ana Ramos, was far from over, and Elena vowed to see it through to the end, no matter the cost.